Hey, I'm Kailan, mate. I'm here from MakinGames, and I'm here with
Nic Makin of MakinGames.
and here to chat about Raging Justice. So, start off with the obvious question: what is Raging Justice?
So it's a very nostalgic, retro-inspired, modern-day take on the side-scrolling beat 'em up of the kind of the early '90s. My golden age of gaming for me when I was growing up, the formative years, the height. My favourite genre was the side-scrolling beat 'em up with games like Double Dragon, Final Fight, Streets of Rage, and I just want to make something that is kind of from the heart and something that inspired me to get into gaming in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up with Streets of Rage myself, so like this is why I was sort of drawn towards the game to try it because it brings me back to when I used to play Mega Drive.
Yeah. No, we're really trying to hit that nostalgic vibe. So rather than retro, we're calling it nostalgic because it's not an old game. It's not something old just rehashed. It's a new modern game, but one where we take sensibilities of the past and modern techniques, tweak them together, put it in a boiling pot, add our own special take on things, and we end up with Raging Justice.
Yeah. So I mean, one of the interesting reinterpretations, modernization of the game is the unique aesthetic style. Because I mean, I guess one of the obvious takes you could have taken was saying, okay, we're inspired by Final Fight, Streets of Rage. We want to make a similar Mega Drive, SNES kind of pixelated graphical style, but instead you've gone with one that I'm tempted to say is more akin to PlayStation 1 graphics.
In some ways, yeah. We've gone with a pre-rendered graphic style, which some of the early PlayStation 1 games and some of the very late Super Nintendo games like Donkey Kong Country went with. It's still a kind of retro aesthetic, but with the pre-rendered style, we're going for proper modern HD graphics. So it looks great on your big screen TV. It's not something that looks all chunky and clunky. We could have gone, as you say, with a pixel art style, like a 16-bit or an 8-bit pixel style, but we decided that that's been done. It's been done well plenty of times before. Let's try something new, something different. So yeah, we ended up on this pre-rendered style, which we feel it fits the game because it's still a 2D style. It's still a sprite-based side-scroller, but it has a kind of a solidity, a kind of a roundness to the graphics, for want of a better term.
Yeah. Oddly, another thing that I was reminded of, speaking of beat 'em up, PlayStation 1 aesthetic style, was strangely Fighting Force.
Fighting Force. Unfortunately, it's one of the few games I haven't played in the genre. It was one that I remember wanting when I had a PlayStation 1. At that time, I was at university. I couldn't afford games, and I think I had Tekken and Worms, and that was it for 3 years.
Yeah. And yeah, I really dug Fighting Force back then, and naturally it's a 3D fighting style, so
yeah.
Unlike to this, but it kind of made me wonder, in terms of level design, would you be able to pick levels either in a chapter select mode or even a branching mode where you pick between say if you want to go to the park or if you want to go to the train station or so on, and then loop back to a single common level?
We don't currently for this game have a branching. It would be great if we could, but we don't have the branching level structure. It's just time and the amount of time it takes to do the graphics. But we do have a unique kind of level select thing in that when you complete a level or a stage, we will store your best stats for the end of that stage. So on the level select screen, instead of starting from scratch every time or from your last save, you start each level from your best stats.
Yeah.
So if you play level, I don't know, you get to the third level, you play a little not as good as previously, go back to level 2, not 1, push that forward, and it helps get you to the end and complete it in one go, but without having to replay everything and without having to be the best player ever.
Yeah, so you don't screw yourself you have a bad run and then suddenly I can't do the final boss.
It might be that you have a bad run on a couple of levels and it's just go just the beginning of those and push forward your stats until you can get to the end.
Which, speaking of lives, is there any way to get additional lives?
There are, throughout the level, there are pickups for extra lives. One of the unique elements of the game we've got is if you can dizzy an enemy, you can arrest them, and in arresting them, instead of spawning a points pickup, you get a health pickup, so that helps kind of boost your stats for the end of that level and push yourself forward.
And so there's like the good cop, bad cop mechanic. So if you're a good cop, you get health. What happens if you're a bad, mean cop?
You get a much higher point score for the bonus given out by the enemy that you've KO'd. It's to try and balance it up a little bit for trying to find a positive thing for being a good cop, and a positive but not really negative but also not really good thing for a bad cop. It has been a bit of a difficult thing to try and find that balance, but because each level now has challenges on every level, so there are score challenges, time challenges, and various level-specific challenges. You may want to play as the bad cop to get the score challenge. You may want to play as the good cop to help push forward the stats to complete the game.
Do you get anything out of these side objectives besides like higher point count?
The good cop, bad cop challenges lead to alternate endings to the game. So we have a good cop ending, a bad cop ending, and a somewhere in the middle cop ending. We also, all the challenges link into achievements on Xbox and Steam. So for those of you who are achievement hunters, you'll have to complete all the challenges to get the full set of achievements. You'll have to really, the replayability is built into it in the kind of the old school sense of score attack, time attack, achievement attack. It's these things we want people to really push for to get the best that they can out of the game.
Yeah. So speaking of replayability, so besides the additional endings, are there any other unlockables you can have, like extra characters, extra skins, or maybe even extra combos?
We're looking into the options for some unlockables, but we'll probably go with an update for any further unlockables and further like characters and what have you. But we are looking at possibly allowing you to play as one of the baddie characters through the game. It'll break the story, but it gives you another way of playing it.
Yeah, it's just fun.
Future plans are, if we can get it for day one, if not roundabout then, is have online mode, so you can play the co-op game online. And once we hit online, we're going to look at different gameplay modes we can add, because that's where we can start mixing up with like 3, 4 more players. You'll see how many we can do.
And will it be able to put like modifiers in the game, like say you can't use weapons or health pickups off or so on?
Definitely when we go for that kind of slightly larger multiplayer aspect. I mean, it's only slightly larger, it's still only 4 player, but it's definitely something that's on the plans for future updates. We don't want to fire and forget, launch the game and walk away from it. We want to support this game. We want to develop a community. We want a following that enjoy the game and help push us to keep working on it, and then hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll get a chance to make a sequel.
Yeah,
which is,
hopefully.
That's our long-term plan.
So, one of the unusual parts I noticed when playing multiplayer with a friend yesterday was just how much I would accidentally punch my friend in the back of the head. So, why friendly fire?
I mean, for me, it kind of it feels right, because it's from that couch co-op play that I used to have with my brother when we were younger, and we'd accidentally punch each other. It's like, you've just punched me, I need to punch you to get you back, even though you're playing together. We had that kind of banter. So that's why it's on by default at the moment. It's in the options menu. If it's not your cup of tea, toggle it off, play the game without being able to. You'd be able to hit each other, but it won't take damage in that case.
Okay, so it's just
still,
like...
it'll have the effect of, oh, you just punched me, but I've not been hurt by it, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So do you have a release date yet for Raging Justice?
We don't have a specific release date. We're aiming to get it out as soon as we can now. The game itself, the core game, that's finished. We're now just on the fun things, the things that people love to do as indie developers, the ratings, the translations, the certification, these things that everyone loves hearing about and loves talking about and looks forward to doing. So we've got that to come, but once we're through that, we'll have a release date and we'll get it out as soon as we can.
And it's for PC and Xbox One, right?
Yeah, so we went through, when Steam had a green light, we went through a successful green light campaign, so we're going to release on Steam. That'll be PC and Mac, and we're going to launch on Xbox One with the IDEA Xbox program. After that, as and when we can, we will launch on everything else. I like to program. I will port this game. I will get it on everything I can.
Like Linux included?
If people want it on Linux, I'll get it on Linux. I don't see a problem in doing that other than time. Time has always been my enemy with this game, with this development.
All right, fair enough. And is there a price in mind?
We don't have a specific price as yet, but we don't want to price too high. It is a game that's, as the core game isn't too long, it's a good 2 hours to play the core game. Without the replayability that's built in there, obviously we reckon people will play about 6-7 hours on this game, but we'll price it within the region of what people expect for an indie game with that kind of longevity.
Yeah, so thank you for the interview.
That's all right, it's been great, thank you.